this Saturday in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, when Georgia rolls into town behind Carson Beck. This has to be the Carson Beck, I'm him kind of game. And we've said that a few times on the live show, but I just want to take a deep dive into that right now. So if you're a Georgia fan, it's a big one this Saturday, baby. All right, we got more content coming for you around this game. We'll have content after this game. We'll obviously cover your Dogs the rest of the season. We cover college football the entire year. I mean, they call it a job. Ridiculous. So make sure you're subscribed here. We appreciate you for that. Also, want to make sure y'all know the Hard Count is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. All right, we got a play for you a little bit later in this segment around what we think Carson Beck is going to do. So use code HARDCOUNT. $5 in lineups gets you $50 in promo funds over at prizepicks.com. Also, just between you and I, great way to support the show and let the people at Prize Picks know that y'all are dialed into the show because they obviously check our referrals there. So appreciate y'all being dialed in. Appreciate using that code. So here's the thing. This is the game if you're Carson Beck. During the year if you're Carson Beck. Because remember now, he came back last year. He could have gone pro, probably would have had a decent draft stock, I have to believe. I understand that the NFL draft is a pretty key piece as to why he came back, but I'm telling you now, this is the game that I promise you have circled when you decide to come back to Georgia for another year as the quarterback. And if you're going to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa behind an offensive savant in Kalen DeBoer, you're going to have to score. All right, this is not going to be, from what I can tell at least, a game played in the teens and its field position. I know it'll be rainy, but even with that being said, or potentially some rain, we'll see. Even with that being said, Alabama scoring over 40 right now. All right, they are humming. So you're probably, if we're using a some guesstimation here, probably going to have to keep pace. Now that's not my take on the Georgia defense per se. I think honestly the game will be played in the high 20s, low 30s, but I think you're going to have to keep pace with Alabama. So you want to keep pace? Who does that come back to? Carson Beck, nucleus of the offense. Also, dinged up across the board here from the offensive line. Like, you're going to need your quarterback here to be the elevator. And I think one of the main things you look at here if you're a Georgia fan is what this game could be for Carson Beck. Because I mentioned, like, the moment, the magnitude of it, when you came back to Georgia, all those things. But I can't help but keep coming back to the game last year in Tuscaloosa when Texas rolled into town. And Quinn Ewers, I think, from that game forward, was a different quarterback. And Quinn Ewers had some success to that point in his career. Like, he had, played Alabama close till he got hurt the year before when they came to Austin. And this is not a Quinn Ewers segment, but I just want to make sure that we frame this correctly. Quinn Ewers slaying the Dragon in Tuscaloosa, having the game that he had, I think was the springboard to Texas and what they did making the college football playoff, winning the Big 12, and to them for them right now having the season they're having. I understand Quinn Ewers is dinged up, but I think that point remains the same. That game changed Quinn Ewers and the trajectory of his career. Carson Beck, to be fair now, walks into this game with a little more skins on the wall than Quinn Ewers had when he came to Tuscaloosa. Carson Beck has won a New Year's Six bowl game. Carson Beck has taken Georgia to the SEC title game. In the New Year's Six bowl, I don't want to take anything away from it, but I think some folks view that a little bit differently because of who Florida State didn't have on the field. Still, thwacked them, handled business. You don't apologize if you're Georgia. But you start looking at Carson Beck and his resume, and it's a lot of really, really good. A lot of really, really good, right? Really good comeback win against Auburn. Really good performance at home against Kentucky last year. Really good to get to the SEC title game. He's played really well for all of our grammar folks out there. Never been below 62% completion percentage. 62% is what he was at the previous week, I guess 2 weeks ago now, when they went to Kentucky. That was the lowest completion percentage of his career. It's pretty good. 62%, that's the worst you have. That's pretty solid. Pretty high floor for our guy Carson Beck. He has had, count them, 0 multi-interception games. Really good. Really, really good. However, this year for Carson Beck is not last year. Second year in the system under Mike Bobo. Second year being a starting quarterback in the SEC. He's whipping like a Lambo truck or something crazy like that. Like, he is the dude now. Also, no Brock Bowers in the lineup. No Ladd McConkey in the lineup. So as you subtract some pieces from last year's offense and look at who's back, I'm looking at Carson Beck and I'm like, okay, you're the guy. You're the dude here. And in modern college football now with a 12-team playoff, like we'll get to that in a second, but you got to have a dude at quarterback. You got to have the guy at quarterback, not just a cog in the machine. You got to have, I think, a guy. And I want to see that in this game from Carson Beck for the reasons I've already mentioned. But let's take it a step further, man. In this game, I think, like I said, there is some pretty even-ish rosters. We can have a debate around, oh, you taking Georgia's or Alabama's secondary? You taking the we could do the whole matchup by matchup conversation, and I'm sure we would disagree on some, but I think we can all agree now the roster talent gap isn't all that wide between these two teams. So when that's the case, who makes the difference? Probably the guy who touches the football every single snap offensively for Georgia, right? Probably the quarterback. And so in this game now, I want to see Carson Beck take over and, again, have the I'm him kind of moments. Now, having the I'm him game does not mean he has to go for 400 yards passing. Does not mean he has to throw 6 touchdowns. If that happens, vibes are tremendous in Athens, Georgia when they get back there. Just know that. But even more specifically, I want to see Carson Beck just be a situational assassin. I want to see him so dialed in, whether it be him making decisions at the line of scrimmage, whether it be where he goes with the football, whether it be placement. I want to see situation after situation, big-time moment, 4th and 3, got to have it. Carson Beck, whether it's him running the football, whether it's him throwing the ball to the back of the end zone and hitting his guy in stride, like whatever he has to do situationally, I need him to be the guy that comes up big again and again and again. That is the mantra for me watching Carson Beck in this game. Can you come up big again and again and again and be the difference? Because I think now, quite honestly, it'll be teed up for him to be the difference in this game. Okay, I said, matchup-wise, I think, honestly, there's not a massive gap between Georgia and Bama. One more thing I want to say here. I mentioned the 12-team playoff. This is a huge tone setter for Georgia. This game in itself, but also what I said about Quinn Ewers. If you're Carson Beck, you go into Tuscaloosa, you beat Alabama. I don't care if Nick Saban's on the game day desk, he's in the booth, he's on the sideline. Doesn't matter to me about Nick Saban so much in this game. If you beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa, the validation, the confidence, the okay, I am who I thought I was kind of feel to it. I don't know if Carson Beck's questioning himself at all. I think it'd be probably a bit of a stretch to say that, but I do think just the internal belief that you gain from going and winning this game and having a big-time takeover kind of game in this spot. College game day. Game of the year to this point. Would do a lot. And I think when you look at the college football playoff now, Georgia is going to be favored, you'd have to believe, in just about every game they show up in. You know, you probably talk about the Texas spread and the Ohio State spread, and if they see Alabama again. Like, I understand all that, but I'm just saying now, for Georgia now, the difference in the college football playoff for them will be Carson Beck being consistent and being the guy. Maybe not in the first round, maybe not in the second round, but eventually the difference, I think, will be the quarterback play in the expanded playoff because of how many games you have to play. Your quarterback has got to be the difference for you, now more than ever, in the expanded playoff. So back to our prize picks play, Carson Beck's rushing total, kind of interesting here, rushing total is set to 8.5 rushing yards on the day. Now, so far to this point in the year, Carson Beck has typically been surpassing that rushing total. I'm going to go ahead and take the more there. Now, you worry a little bit and say, okay, well, if he gets sacked, that probably hurts the play there. But I'll take the more. I feel good about it. I think everyone's favorite label to put on quarterbacks, sneaky athleticism from Carson Beck. I think that plays a factor here. We're going to go ahead and pair that with the Caleb Williams free square all September long. Get in on this while you can. More than a half passing yard. So again, code HARDCOUNT at prizepicks.com. Go ahead and use that play if you want to tail us. $5 in lineups, $50 in promo funds. Daily fantasy made easy. The folks at Prize Picks just bringing you the show today. So we appreciate them for that, and we appreciate y'all for being dialed in and making it happen. So, with that being said, let me know in the comment section what you think of Carson Beck in this game. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time.